Hare Krishna. Morning, Tulsi. Hare Krishna. Hallelujah Kripa. Anushri. Justin. Hare Krishna. Ram. Vrindavananatabara. Madhuri Saki. Yogadish. Madhuri Radhe. Avanish. Aditi. Haribo. Part. Amodavardhana. Sukeshri. Wow. Fantastic. So, in the Srimad Bhāgavatam, Narada Muni gives a great secret to Vyasadeva. And he describes the process of perfection and says, Iti murtyabhidanena mantra murtim amurtikam. And here he's saying that the form of God is in his name and it's complete. You get the complete darshan through the name. So why is it that I'm not getting it? Well, it just requires some practice. It's not a cheap thing, but we should know that this is the process. And there may be millions of other processes, but this is the most reliable sampradaya, and it is giving a very clear indication about the one process that is most effective. So we can start this morning by preparing ourselves for the right mood in which to chant by doing our Uttashuddhi. I'll say that if you'd like to read along, I'll go slow enough so you can follow behind muted mics. I am by nature the eternal servant of Krishna, but by misfortune, due to being inimical towards him since time immemorial, I've been wandering within the cycle of birth and death in the material world, being burnt by the threefold miseries. Now, as a result of some unimaginable good fortune, by the mercy of my spiritual master, I know that I am an infinitesimal living being completely apart from the gross and subtle body. Now, by the order of my spiritual master, I have obtained the good fortune of serving his lotus feet, as well as the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan. Naham vipro nacha narapatir napi vaisho nashudro. Naham barni nacha griyapatir no vanasto yatirva. Kintu prodyan nikila paramananda purnamratabdir gopi bhartu parakamala yor das anadasaha. I'm not a Brahmana. I'm not a Kshatriya. I'm not a Vaishya or a Shudra. Nor am I a brahmachari, a householder, a vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. I just take a moment to become centered and try closing your eyes and just be aware of your breath and breathe and say thank you to your spiritual master. Thank you to Krishna. And feel some gratitude in your heart, especially that just as two birds on one tree, one bird is the eating bird trying to enjoy the fruits on the tree, and sometimes getting a fruit he likes, sometimes it's bitter, always jumping from one branch to the next. And then there's the witnessing bird who's maintaining and facilitating everything. Krishna's giving us everything at every second, and he's there as our friend called Suhrit, the best well-wishing friend. Our very life depends on him, even in this very moment. So just bring that gratitude to Krishna in your heart you can say, thank you, Krishna, thank you, Krishna, thank you, Krishna. And then to the form of Krishna who brought the holy name to all of us without any consideration of qualification or not, bypass all the rules and formalities and gave it to us straight. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Viradhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. And to our Hare Krishna mantra japa. Comments, questions, revelations, complaints. Sharing means caring. Amudavardhana.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So after Yatra, I took some time to read a book called The Living Name by Satchidanand Swami Maharaj. And there was one point in that book that really stuck out to me that's helped me kind of define a new meaning to chanting, which was sometimes you have to unlearn what you've already learned to learn again. And in that, a big point that Maharaj makes in the book is that we sometimes pick up incorrect habits or means or definitions of what it means to chant. And on top of that, we keep trying to layer additional types of, meaning, like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And it overly complicates the definition of chanting and what it means to chant. So, I don't know whether fortunately, I was in the middle of a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean in a cruise ship, and I had nothing to do, so I practiced forgetting how to chant to some extent. And I've been practicing how to intentionally just listen to the name after forgetting a lot of those bad habits, and it's really helped. So I guess what I'm trying to share is, one, if you haven't read the book, I would highly recommend it because I found it quite changing or transformational. And then the second is sometimes it's a bit cliche, but I found it helpful to go backwards a couple steps before redefining what it means to chant.
Thank you, Amudavardhana. And we have Tulsi.
Hare Krishna Gurudev. I was reflecting on the last couple of days that have been, I've just had a lot of anxiety um, over various different things. And so I was thinking, or my meditation during chanting for the last few days has been um, along the lines of, like, Krishna, just let me accept whatever your plan is, regardless of whatever the decision is, because I found myself with all this anxiety thinking like, oh, I would love if it was like this outcome or if this happened. And so every time I kept trying to think of that, the question I actually had was how to like develop sincerity in this different prayer where you're trying to be sincere about, Krishna, let me just accept your plan. But my mind is still thinking about like, oh, what is the outcome? Like, I still want this outcome. And then when you talked about um, gratitude this morning, that's kind of when I realized that the opposite of asking Krishna for something is just thanking him for what he's already given me. So that really just like the second that I started, when you were saying like just thank you, Krishna, then when I kept saying that every single time I said it in my mind as I was chanting, the anxiety just sort of gradually reduced. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you very much, Tulsi. Yeah, I mentioned a godbrother of mine. When he wakes up, first thing he stands in front of a picture of Prabhupada and says, thank you, Srila Prabhupada. And I started doing that practice. And also, whenever I can catch it, and I thank you, Krishna, thank you, Krishna, thank you, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's a nice preamble. I want to read you something, if you still have a little time, that I read this morning. I'm sorting out a lot of the shlokas and papers I've collected over the years. I have boxes and boxes full. And I ran into this copy of the Gita Mahatmya. And I'm just going to read you a short story because I find it helpful in remembering that spiritual activities are directly connected to Krishna and the results up to him. In this Gita Mahatmya, Parvati goes to Lord Shiva. And then she asks him, my dear husband, you know all the transcendental truths, and by your mercy, I've heard the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. O Lord, now I long to hear from you the glories of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Lord Krishna, and by hearing which one's devotion to Lord Krishna increases. Lord Shiva replied, that person whose body is the color of a dark rain cloud, whose carrier is the king of birds, Garuda, and who is lying on Anantashesha, the thousand-headed serpent, that Lord Vishnu, whose glories have no limit, I am always worshiping. My dear Parvati, once after Lord Vishnu had killed the demon Mura, he was resting peacefully on the Anantashesha, when the bestower of all good fortune of the universe, Sri Lakshmi, respectfully inquired from him, Bhagavan, you are the controller and maintainer of the whole universe, but yet you are sleeping unhappily on this ocean of milk. What is the reason? Lord Vishnu said, my dear Lakshmi, I'm not sleeping, but I am watching how wonderfully my energy is working. It is by this wonderful energy of mine by which I am controlling all things and yet remain separate. And it is by remembering these divine activities of mine that the great devotees and yogis manage to free themselves from the wheel of birth and death and attain that transcendental nature of mine, which is eternal and free from all qualities. Lakshmi said, O controller of all things, you are the goal of the meditation of great yogis. Nothing can go on without you, and yet you are separate. You are the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction of all the material universes. Kindly inform me about the workings of your wonderful energies, which are so attractive that even you are lying here meditating upon them. My dear Lakshmi, the workings of my multi-fold energies and how to become free from the bonds of birth and death and attain my eternal nature can only be understood by one of pure intelligence, who has an inclination to render service unto me. This transcendental knowledge is fully explained in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Lakshmi inquired, my dear Lord, if you yourself are amazed by the workings of your energies and are ever trying to fathom their limit, then how is it possible that the Bhagavad Gita can describe those unlimited energies of yours and how to cross over them and attain the transcendental nature? Lord Vishnu said, I myself have manifested in the form of Bhagavad Gita. Please understand that the first 5 chapters are my 5 heads, and the next 10 chapters are my 10 arms, and the 16th chapter is my stomach. The last 2 chapters are my lotus feet. In this way, you should understand the transcendental deity of the Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita is the destroyer of all sins, and that intelligent person who daily recites 1 chapter, or even 1 shloka, 1 half shloka, or even 1 quarter shloka will attain the same position as Susharma had attained. Lakshmi inquired, who was Susharma? What class did he belong to? And what destination did he attain? My dear Lakshmi, Susharma was a very wicked and most sinful man. Although he was born in a Brahmin family, his family had no Vedic knowledge, and he only took pleasure from hurting others. He never engaged in the chanting of my names, in giving charity, or receiving guests. In fact, he never performed any pious activities. For his livelihood, he collected leaves and sold them in the bazaar. He especially enjoyed drinking wine and eating flesh. In this way, he passed his life. One day, that foolish Susharma had gone to the garden of one sage for collecting leaves, when a snake came and bit him, and he died. After his death, he was cast into many hells, where he suffered for a long time, after which he attained the body of a bull. That bull was purchased by a crippled man who engaged him in his service. For about 7 or 8 years, he was carrying extremely heavy loads. One day, that cripple had piled a very heavy load onto the back of his bull. Very quickly, he was forcing that bull along when suddenly the bull fell over and became unconscious. Many persons gathered there to see what was happening. Feeling sorry for the bull, one pious man bestowed upon the bull the results of some of his pious activities. Seeing that, other persons standing there started remembering their pious activities and offered the results of some of those activities to that bull. In that crowd, there was also one prostitute who did not know if she had ever performed any pious activities. But seeing everyone else offering their pious credits to the bull, she also offered the results of any pious activities she might have performed. After that, the bull died and was taken to the abode of Yamaraj, the god of death. There, Yamaraj informed him, "You are now free from the reactions of all your previous sinful deeds, due to the pious credits given to you by that prostitute." Then he took birth in a very high Brahmin family. In that birth, he was able to remember his past lives. After many days, he decided to search out that prostitute who had been the cause of freeing him from his hellish situation. After he had found and introduced himself to that lady, he inquired from her, "What were the pious activities performed by you, the fruits of which freed me from my hellish situation?" The prostitute replied to him, "My dear sir, in that cage is one parrot, which recites something every day. Hearing that recitation, my heart has become completely pure. The results of hearing that recitation I, I had given to you. Thereafter, they both inquired from that parrot about the recitation. The parrot, remembering his previous life, started to narrate his story. Previously, I had been a very learned Brahmin, but due to my pride, I used to insult other learned persons. I was also extremely jealous. After I died, I was cast into many hells, and after a long time of suffering, I achieved this body of a parrot. Due to my past sinful activities, my mother and father died while I was a baby. One day, while I was lying on the hot sands with no protection, some rishis saw me and took me to their ashrama and put me in a cage. At that same place, the children of those rishis were learning the recitation of the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Hearing them repeat those shlokas, I also started repeating those shlokas along with them. Shortly after, one thief stole me from that place and sold me to this pious lady. By reciting the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that parrot had become completely pure. And by hearing that recitation, that prostitute also became completely pure. And by receiving some of the pious results of hearing that recitation, Shushārma also became completely pure. After discussing for some time the glories of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Shushārma returned to his home, and the three of them individually engaged in reciting the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and very quickly attained the supreme destination, Vaikuntha. Anyone who recites, who hears, or studies the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita will very easily cross over the ocean of material miseries and attain the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. There's your story for the day. One thing to remember is that Krishna is directly available to us all the time. It's just a matter of reaching out. I saw a video of somebody in the Los Angeles fires. It was a woman, it sounded like, because you couldn't see her. Someone was holding the camera and she was driving her car down the road where there was fire on all sides. And she started praying, "Oh my God, please help me, please save me." And she drove through a tunnel. And when she came out the other side, it was even more fiery. And over again, she just kept saying, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, please save me." And I was just realizing how, as it says in the Bhagavatam, we're always in danger at every step. It's only when we come to an awareness of our existential crisis we're in that we actually pray to God, and everybody does it. But devotees are preemptive. They realize that Krishna is my best friend. I'm eternally related to him. It's sublime service just to chant his name, because that's my eternal relationship, is just to glorify him. And they follow his advice, sarva-dharmān parityajya. Don't get involved in all kinds of entangling activities in this world. Just chant the Lord's name. Thank you, everybody, for being stalwarts, keeping the transcendental vibration going. All good comes from remembering Krishna, especially chanting his holy name and remembering him in that way. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmana Shringadev. If you so desire, please bless and empower everyone who joined Japa Jolt today. Those who wish they had joined, those who forgot and slept through it, that they may always have a desire within their heart to sincerely chant, call out the Lord's name in all circumstances. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Great to see you all. It's almost like getting our yatra together again. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Everyone who agrees with this prayer, please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Vanchakalpatarishcha, Kripasandabe, Vachapatitanam, Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavibhyo, Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.